We'll say, yeah, typical draft for the Cavaliers. They couldn't get the number 1 pick this time, but they've got the number 5 pick. Starts at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. What can we look for the Cavaliers? Can we look for any trades before?
I think you could. So it's interesting because I think the 4 teams in front of them, Les, have different motivations to try and trade. Charlotte would like to probably trade up to try and get James Wiseman. Golden State would love to trade down. They want win now players. Minnesota has motivation to move down out of the number 1 spot. I think the Chicago Bulls would be interested in moving as well. So from everybody that I've talked to around the NBA over the last couple of months, Les, this isn't a well-liked draft, especially up at the top, because there are so many questions. There are so many fears of a lot of the top prospects in this year's class. Now, you can say that about a lot of drafts, but even more so this year. So I think a lot of those teams would like to move out if they can. But the problem is, who's going to move up? Who's the player that these teams would want to move up for? I know that the Cavs have had conversations with the Boston Celtics, who have 3 first-round picks, including the 14th overall. I know that the Cavs have had conversations with the New York Knicks, who now have former Cavs executive Brock Aller in the front office there. The Knicks have the 8th pick. So could the Cavs work something out there? I think trades are going to be speculated about. I just think it's going to be hard for a lot of these teams to find the right trade partner and actually have movement, especially in the top 5.
All right, so let's say none of these teams find what they want. It's just a straight up draft. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It comes to 5. Based on what you think is going to come before number 5, what do you think is there for the Cavaliers? Is there a match somewhere along the line there?
So, Les, I think there is a match. The Cavs had a meeting on Monday with all the members of their scouting staff in the front office, and they went through their final rankings, and they assembled their big board, and they made final tweaks to it. But that could change. That could change between now and Thursday night. It's a very, very uncertain class. There's a lot of prospects that you can talk yourself into, and those same exact prospects you can talk yourself out of.
What are you talking about? Off the court issues or just on the court?
I think it's a combination of both, right? So like LaMelo Ball, you can talk yourself into the fact that he's a supersized point guard, probably the best passer in the draft, but he played in Australia. So what does that mean for a level of competition? He came across in interviews as immature and cocky. And I think there are questions about whether you want to make him the face of your franchise. Anthony Edwards is really, really talented from Georgia, but he didn't win in high school. He didn't win in AAU, and he didn't win at Georgia. So if he's so talented, why don't his teams ever win? James Wiseman, really, really talented, tons of skill set to be a two-way big down the road. Right now, he can probably come in and impact games on the defensive end with his rim protection and his switchability. He played 3 games at Memphis. 3 games less, and 25 of the 28 made shots that he had were layups or dunks. So what do you do with that in terms of an evaluation? And then you can go down the list.
I know the answer. You set up an offense that only has layups and dunks.
Sure. I mean, like NBA teams are just going to give those up constantly, right? I mean, they're not going to play any defense these days.
Right.
So you can go down the list with all those guys and talk yourself into and out of any single one of them. But I think the Cavs, Les, are going to pick from a pool of 4 to 5 players. And I really think there isn't a consensus right now based on the conversations that I've had. And I still think they're deliberating on who is the best fit and who's the best talent for them at number 5. And I think the 4 to 5 guys that they're considering, Israeli swingman Denny Avdia, Dayton's Obi Toppin, I'm sure everybody around here knows about him, Auburn's Isaac Okoro, Florida State's Patrick Williams, who is considered the fastest riser in the draft, Tyrese Halliburton from Iowa State, and I guess on the outside of everything is USC's Onyeka Okongwu. Now, one of those guys that I mentioned probably will go number 4 to the Chicago Bulls, and maybe that makes the Cavs' decision a little bit easier.
Right. Wiseman is the guy who intrigues me, but then when you say he only played 3 games and the team got in trouble because of some activity, that sort of takes points away.
Yeah, and everything that I've heard about Wiseman is he is not getting past Charlotte at number 3. Charlotte, if you look at the roster makeup, screaming for a center. So a lot of people feel like James Wiseman's going to go 2 to the Golden State Warriors. They need a rim runner. They need a rim protector. He can step in and be their starting center. If he gets past Golden State at 2, I think Charlotte at 3 would scoop him up.
All right.